A vertical wall of sapphire glass. The aristocrat's hand, rigid with a 12% loss in tendon elasticity, grips the void. Below, 3,000 meters of indigo shadow wait to claim the debt. The alpha's back is an amber wall against the molecular arrest of the wind. To understand how they arrived here, the Qinling Shards rise, where oxygen thins to a whisper. Here, at 3,500 meters, atmospheric pressure crushes 30% lower than the valleys below. It chokes ancient large forests with diamond dust, ice prisms suspended in air, too thin to breathe. Wind-stripped wood stands skeletal against an ash-gray sky. Brittle lichen clings to granite like nature's chainmail. This is the architecture of scarcity, where survival is measured in micrograms of heat retained. Each winter solstice, a biological imperative older than memory, stirs in blood and marrow. The aristocrats, golden-furred sovereigns of these vertical kingdoms, feel it in the lengthening shadows, in the drop of molecular motion we call thermal suspension. Their bodies begin a transformation. Fur density peaks at 320 hairs per square millimeter, each shaft hollow, trapping air in 10,000 microscopic chambers. Subcutaneous fat shifts inward. It becomes not fuel, but a fortress. The ancient rhythm calls them upward. They descend from scattered feeding grounds as one organism. 200 amber flames converging on the skeletal ascent. Matriarchs lead with the weight of 20 winters in their stride. Juveniles shadow their movements, learning the choreography of survival. The alpha male moves last, a deliberate sentinel, ensuring no stragglers vanish into the indigo abyss. Their destination is the birthing grounds, where stone meets the void. The journey begins. To reach the sacred cliffs, they must traverse the fractured traverse, a labyrinth of vertical stone where one miscalculation means 3,000 meters of silence. Their fingers, equipped with opposable thumbs on all four limbs, become instruments of precision. Each handhold is tested. Weight is distributed, and the stone's integrity is assessed through vibrations felt in the bone. They move as liquid architecture, bodies conforming to angles that defy geometry. The wind carries the scent of ozone and distance. Hunger arrives before they do. The larch bark offers only usnea lichen, gray strands that yield 1.5 kilocalories per gram, a miser's currency in the economy of survival. They consume it methodically, their saculated stomachs churning through 6 hours of fermentation to extract thermogenic heat from cellulose. It is digestion as a furnace. Already, mass begins its slow departure, 0.12% per day, a tax paid in flesh. Orbital bones sharpen beneath golden fur. The caloric debt compounds with each vertical meter gained. Still, they climb. The birthing ledges emerge from the mist like shattered cathedrals. Here, where stone meets sky, crystalline vertical planes refract light into deep blue shadow pockets. Ice encrusts every surface in glass-smooth armor. The ledges themselves, razor-thin platforms above the Sapphire Abyss, offer no comfort, only position. They offer protection from the thermal suspension that prowls the valleys below. The troop settles into formation. Juveniles are sheltered inward. Matriarchs form the perimeter. The alpha is positioned where the wind strikes first. This is the arena. In the heart of the huddle, silent negotiations unfold. The matriarchs present themselves not through display, but through metabolic readiness. Their fat reserves are assessed through touch. Their thermal output is measured in the space between bodies. The alpha responds with precision, grooming that maps blood flow and proximity that shares heat. Conception occurs as a biochemical necessity. Within weeks, embryonic clusters begin cellular division, drawing from reserves that must last 4 months. The females' bodies become dual furnaces, generating life while fighting the void. When the first infant emerges, wet, gray-skinned and eyes sealed against the diamond dust, the weight transfers. The alpha male assumes the outer position permanently. His back becomes the windbreak. His mass, now the family's primary thermal reservoir, begins its accelerated descent. He will metabolize 65% of his mesenteric fat over the coming weeks, burning the insulation of his own visceral organs to anchor the huddle. Every calorie the alpha expends is a sentence written in flesh. You will survive. I have decided. Now comes the waiting. The storm season's true test is not violence, but duration. Weeks when movement means death, when the only choice is compression. They huddle motionless as the wind strips heat, molecule by molecule. Ice forms in their outer fur layer. It is nature's compromise, an insulating crust that also leaches warmth from the skin beneath. The alpha's heartbeat slows to 40 beats per minute, conservation through stillness. Existence is reduced to the mathematics of thermal loss versus internal generation. The glaze arrives without warning. Supercooled moisture strikes warmer surfaces and vitrifies upon contact. A 5-millimeter shell of anhydrous ice that transforms the world into unreachable glass. The lichen vanishes beneath crystalline armor. Bark becomes polished stone. Worse, the ice penetrates fur and reaches skin, beginning the insidious work of reducing tendon elasticity by 12%. Joints stiffen. Fingers lose their grip precision. The very architecture that allowed them to reach this sanctuary now threatens to become a cage. Food exists, visible but entombed. By day 70, they exist at 88% of their original mass. The juvenile's ribs press against fur like ladder rungs. Matriarchs' faces become studies in angular geometry, cheekbones sharp as the stone beneath them. The alpha's spine protrudes, each vertebra countable. Their metabolic rate has dropped 15%, the body cannibalizing its own systems to maintain core temperature. Energy cannot be spared for grief. Survival has become a war of attrition against physics itself. Then, imperceptible at first, molecular motion increases. The diamond dust settles. Atmospheric pressure rises by fractions. The ice shell fractures, not through violence, but through the patient work of thermal cycling. Daytime warmth penetrates the glaze's surface. Nighttime contraction creates microscopic stress fractures. After 90 days, the armor shatters into 10,000 crystalline shards. Lichen emerges, still viable, still offering its meager currency. The aristocrats move slowly, damaged tendons remembering their purpose. They have outlasted the molecular arrest. The surviving infants undergo metamorphosis. Gray, downy skin darkens and becomes oily, a waterproofing secretion that repels moisture and retains body heat. Patchy amber fur emerges in irregular clusters, eventually coalescing into the golden armor of adulthood. They take their first steps on the ledges, limbs trembling with newfound strength. Each movement is a calibration, learning to distribute weight, to read the stone's texture through touch, and to understand that survival here means precision multiplied by vigilance. A late-season squall tests them independently. The adults cannot shield them. The huddle has dispersed for foraging. The juveniles must form their own thermal clusters. They must choose position and pressure distribution without guidance. Some press too close, restricting breathing. Others hold too loose, bleeding heat into the void. Through trial and calibration, they discovered the geometry, close enough to share warmth, distant enough to allow the lungs to expand. When the wind subsides, they have learned what cannot be taught, only earned. Now, when the troop moves across the skeletal ascent, the juveniles take their positions within the formation, not as protected cargo, but as functional participants. Their smaller mass means faster heat loss, yet their metabolic furnaces burn hotter, compensating through the beautiful inefficiency of youth. The matriarchs watch them with the detachment of actuaries. This generation's survival rate is high. Nature's balance holds. The species persists not through individual heroism, but through collective calibration across the ages. As atmospheric pressure normalizes and the valleys green with spring's arrival, the huddle dissolves. Juveniles scatter into smaller foraging units, learning territories their mothers once claimed. The alpha descends alone, carrying 85% of the mass he began with. Separation is not abandonment. It is a biological imperative. Dispersal prevents the depletion of the mountain's meager gifts. The invisible threads of kinship stretch, but they do not break. They return to the larch forests as survivors, carrying the winter's lessons in their cellular memory. The diamond dust still glitters in the high-altitude air, eternal and indifferent. The Sapphire Abyss still waits below, as patient as geology. But the aristocrats have proven again what their lineage has proven for millennia, that thermal suspension can be endured. Molecular arrest can be outlasted. The mathematics of survival, while brutal, are solvable through the grace of endurance. Next winter, when the ancient rhythm stirs again, new alphas will take their position on the windward ledge. They will metabolize 65% of their mesenteric fat, anchoring their families against storms not yet born. The ledges will hold new infants. The Glaze will return, indifferent to last year's survivors. This is not triumph. but continuation. The species writes its story in fat reserves and tendon elasticity. The Qinling Shards rise eternal, and at their peak, amber flames flicker against the cobalt void. The saga, as always, continues.